Welcome to For the Record. My name is KHKeetaba, KH for short, and thank you for joining me on this new journey. My main influence for starting this channel, to be so very honest, is to keep creative, to just have another outlet, another excuse to be thinking about artistry, to be thinking about writing, to be constantly trying to put some increment of energy into the game and developing myself as a portion of the game. I think that's always the most inspiring part of hearing like interviews from rappers or what have you, athletes, even. It's the dedication, and sometimes, especially like when you're trying to write authentically, I think it's hard to just constantly be creating out of nothing and rearranging your memories and your stories to make a new compelling track. And there's ample record of great artists, their trauma, their pain, their breakthroughs, their development as people, as creatives. You have it, that we can pull from and learn from. So many styles, so much diversity, so many genres. Even I don't want to stay strictly in rap either. Overall, just a place where we can learn from what exists already. And hopefully we can get a comfort going where we share with each other. My first EP, it's called Coordinated Recovery, just a little journey through this past year in my life, a lot of personal stuff going on. And yeah, making that, I learned I have a ton of growth to do. And in order to do that, kind of like when I write in any other format, it's consuming content, learning how to learn from it, learning how it inspires me, and learning what I like about it, like how I can make my own game better from learning from others, like I've said a million times. So for this inaugural episode, I chose an album that I definitely played quite a bit. It was between two. This album I'm speaking of is JID's The Forever Story. Obviously, an absolute banger, pre-certified classic. We will be listening for decades. The other one comes into me pretty closely in level of range and level of experience in the game and my own personal enamorment with it. Couldn't buy tickets to their show. Guess it in the comments if you can. But before we did dive into that record, I wanted to go over how I kind of score pieces. At least it's a little scale I learned from the big homie. His name's Austin. He's a really dope artist himself. Hopefully we will go over his record pretty soon. It's pretty simple. Uniqueness, bars, delivery, flow, and content. Those 5 tenets I try to keep in the back of my head when I create as my own mental checklist. And just something that I feel like if you're hitting those to a pretty good level, like you're doing your work to mend those, you can't really go wrong with your record. Those are kind of the tenets that I usually can find in all of my favorites, at least. And I'll go through those on a scale of 1 to 5, at least for this record, and see how it goes from there. This will also just give me a nice little format to play with and give you guys something to respond to. Maybe something that I say is a 4.5 or 4.2 is like a 6 to you, you know what I mean? Or like a 2 to you, I don't know. But overall, just a real simple, easy way to kind of get the ideas across. So to start, I give it a 3.9 on uniqueness. This is the second lowest grade I have on here for the record, and only on a relative basis to JID himself, to what I'm used to from him when it comes to pushing creative boundaries. Ed and Eddie, there's videos where he had himself as a hostage to the rap industry and stuff like that, things of that nature. And I think the cinematography carries. If anything, the cinematography is better in a lot of his videos that he's released for this record so far. But nothing grabbing, nothing that like in juxtaposition to previous tapes, which I will be going over later, stood out to me, aside from the content, which is its own category in itself. And yeah, it felt like a very like solid JID record. That's why like I say 3 is like above average. You're meeting like above the game quality where you should be as an artist of that standard. And then that 0.9 is like there's still obviously a deep cut. highlighter effect on this record. When you listen to it, you're just like, whoa, this stands out, like from his other tapes and everything, to say the least. I still think if I went back to another record, I'd be like, whoa, like more often than I would from this one, though. I think that's how I'd measure that, 3.9. Then what I would call just under his top scoring point for the record would be flow and delivery. Like I said earlier, these two, for me, for him at least, they're not too different, just because the magnitude they carry with how he came onto the scene. I heard a lot of comparisons to Kendrick in the beginning. Some people saying he was better in these fields than Kendrick. They had taken that portion of Kendrick's throne down and things of that nature, and no short of that same level of agency in this record. Every time you hear JID's voice, there's like this sharp cheddar effect. It's like kind of sour to the ear, but just so direct. You know what it is as soon as you hear it. The way he plays with his cadence to make you feel things. He deprives you of certain portions of the beat. He like loads you with information in one line just to like let the payoff come gradually. Beautiful, changes up style multiple times in a single verse, in a single bar, you name it. He does that rubber band thing where he's like and almost triplets with his voice. Again, like man's damn near beatboxing with verses. So for flow, I gave him a 4.5, and for delivery, I gave him a 4.7. The lowest score for this record would go to bars. Ultimately, just in relativity, like every single other thing on this list, it just wasn't as experimental or what I'm used to from JID. I can always think of like Strawberries and his reference to haunted houses. If you know, you know. But just he's down to experiment usually. I don't think the record necessarily called for extra experimentation here. I think the way he chose to level it out to us, to share it with us, ultimately was the vessel for how beautiful the content was. I think doing outlandish things wouldn't have fit the tone of this piece at all. But to know that that artist has this range, this establishes a new portion of his range, a calmer portion of his range, a more grounded portion of his range, that's able to tap into just the sonic beauty of a record and how everything else can kind of carry the weight without references or illusion and things of that nature. And definitely to save the best for last in this moment, I was completely infatuated with my man's content. The story he told, even before watching interviews of him describing the motive and the feelings and the placement, you can just see it. Like every single track is painting a portion of this man's childhood, of this man's experiences, of what crafted the artist we get to appreciate today. And it's so well told. It's what makes this industry beautiful to me, is hearing stories told with this level of style, this level of depth, to be able to weave the way he did. I think also that's kind of why like maybe bars didn't get as much love, in my opinion, is because in my opinion is because I probably wanted to save for content. Like everything he said, the ad libs, the backtracking, where he's at, the juxtaposition between placement, what he's learned as a person. I personally come from a family, there's 8 of us total, the 7 siblings, and I think I heard him say a bar about having 7 siblings or something of the sort. Immediately made sense to me. You could just connect with it. All the personalities, I think, I was thinking about it recently, I think we benefit from it in a favorable situation, right? Because you get to meet so many various people. At the end of the day, yeah, we were raised similar, but we're still all our own people. Like not a single one of my siblings is like perfectly similar. And it's such a beautiful experience, and you get to learn so much. And he mentions being the youngest, and I think even more so, like I wonder, I constantly think about what my younger brothers are going to think of me and how they all feel about me. And so to hear someone thanking their older brothers is really dope. The illusion, the references. I think his pops is singing on one part. He mentions in an interview, he's recording a funeral at one point. Like he spared no expense. He let us in. He let us in. He let us view this moment and these moments that he once remembered. Absolutely, for sure, 5 out of 5. JID is never scared to share, and I think just hearing him get specific was so amazing. Ultimately, The Forever Story is an amazing entry to JID's discography and the most personal look we've ever gotten into the artist, especially his relationship moving from being an athlete to being an artist, and how he feels about where he comes from, what has shaped him into the person we're able to appreciate as an artist today, and expertly gives us something to learn from for decades to come. I, again, will be listening for a while. I play it almost daily now. This one and the next album that we will review in the next episode, which should already be up. Again, thank you so much for joining me on my first step in this new journey. Yeah, just a way to keep pace with creativity, kind of feed that portion of the spirit constantly and consistently. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any notes. This is KHKeetaba, and thank you for listening to For the Record.